My wife's employers didn't pull it off. She's working at home and everybody's working in the office and getting everything done, so.
That's like being able to firewall.
Yeah.
Firewall. Right.
You're a half now, so. Nobody want to have to hit us anyway.
Thank you guys for practicing social distancing. The mayor and the chief will be down in line. And Aaron, I'm so sorry that I texted you today. That's pretty scary. I need to make sure I put in your last name.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
One day I'm gonna send something top secret to Eric Green would do the same thing.
One time I got, there's an FBI agent in Cleveland, Tennessee, named Scott Worker. I got an internal FBI agent. Somebody, the PIO there, including me on the loop. Unfortunately, it wasn't juicy enough to actually get.
Yours
And I was
wasn't
just, I
actually
didn't,
Yeah, I know you people out there.
of course, I didn't tell them, because I was hoping that I would stay in the loop and I could get a juicy one later, so, but I never did. Went out. Yeah.
right front here, so.
Oh, I looked at the contents, of course, it's about a case out of Chattanooga that already been reported on, everything else, and I was looking at this. It's pretty long.
Yep, 1 minute before you go out.
Good arm? Okay.
Just checking that microphone should be on.
All right, check it.
Test 1 2 3 1 2 3. Everybody got good audio through your mics. Hello, hello, hello. 3 2 1 5 4 3 2 1. You guys good? Do you need a white balance up here? Good.
I'll wait till it says 3 o'clock on the thing.
I don't want to be.
Thank you all for doing the social distancing thing. It's important. It's the longest minute of my life.
I'm just glad everybody's 6 feet apart. Because everybody's doing the right thing.
Okay. It's 3 o'clock. I'm going to go ahead and start. Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. Can everyone hear me okay? Okay. Today, Chief Thomas and I are here together following months of investigations into allegations of misconduct at the Knoxville Police Department. We are well aware that our community's attention and efforts are focused on the COVID-19 pandemic, but we made a promise to be transparent, and the final disciplinary action in this case was to have been heard yesterday. That hearing did not occur, Instead, the officer resigned from KPD. So the disciplinary actions are now complete, and we wanted to make the findings public immediately. We stand here committed to a path forward that empowers the men and women within KPD to report misconduct, and we stand here today to tell you that no one, no matter the rank, is above the law. It was 8 months ago when Mayor O'Hara and Chief Thomas held a press conference and discussed with some of you here today that the police department's internal affairs unit was conducting thorough investigations into allegations of misconduct by several officers. As you likely recall, a secret video that documented some inappropriate behavior was reported by the media. So there was no doubt that there were instances of KPD employees making bad judgments that reflected poorly on their peers and on the city. We were all disappointed and embarrassed by that infamous roll call video. That's why this thorough investigation was needed. Mayor O'Hara and the chief said at the start of last summer that they wanted the IAU investigation to help determine several things. Did specific officers, including supervisors, violate KPD policies? If so, what disciplinary actions are warranted? More importantly, what should be done to stop lewd and inappropriate behavior? Do our police employees feel comfortable speaking out when they see or hear inappropriate behavior? And is the KPD command staff adequately handling complaints? Today, I want to announce the findings of the Internal Affairs Unit investigations, the disciplinary actions that have been taken against 3 supervisors and 1 officer, and steps that Chief Thomas and I are taking to assure that our employees know it is incumbent upon them to report inappropriate behavior and that they know how to report it. First, the findings. A media release has just gone out detailing the highlights of the investigations. In addition, summaries of the IAU investigations will be available following the news conference on the city website, www.knoxvilletn.gov, KPD Open Records. Lieutenant Kenneth Brian Bush resigned yesterday prior to his disciplinary hearing. He was not involved in the making of the lewd roll call video, but he was found to have made contradictory and deceptive statements under oath in separate interviews with IAU investigators about the video. He also received a copy of the video and took no action regarding either the sergeant whose inappropriate behavior was captured in the video or the officer who violated the department's code of conduct by making the video. Officer Tyler Wiggins, who recorded and disseminated the video, is being suspended without pay for 8 days. Chief Thomas has received counseling from me for not immediately contacting the city law department or the civil service department when the anonymous harassment complaint was received last June. The complaint was immediately addressed by a deputy chief, as Chief Thomas ordered, but the chief's failure to specifically direct that the complaint be immediately forwarded to the law and civil service departments was a violation of policy. A deputy chief, Kenny Miller, and a captain, Tony Willis, also received letters of reprimand. It's also worth noting that the IAU investigations into allegations of KPD misconduct only assess whether current KPD employees have violated department policies. Therefore, the actions of 2 former KPD officers central to the investigation, Lieutenant Travis Brasfield, who filed a complaint with IAU, Civil Service, and the Law Department, and Sergeant Bob Maxwell, who was videotaped behaving inappropriately during roll call, were chronicled and evaluated, but the IAU did not attempt to reach findings regarding those 2 officers' conduct. Since both left KPD as the investigation unfolded, they were also not subject to any potential disciplinary action. Lieutenant Bush was included in the IAU investigation because he was a current KPD employee until he resigned yesterday. So in all, 3 supervisors have resigned or retired, and 3 other supervisors and 1 officer were disciplined. I want to thank the Internal Affairs Commander and all the investigators who worked on this. Reading the findings, it is apparent that the IAU left no stone unturned and followed every lead. We trust IAU and applaud the unit's thoroughness. That brings me to my last point. What do we do going forward? First of all, let me be clear that Chief Thomas and I concur with the Internal Affairs findings. I also concur with the Chief's decisions in terms of disciplining her officers. As a result of these findings, I have directed Chief Thomas to continue to implement supplemental training in workplace harassment to all KPD employees. Some of this is being handled internally, and some of the training involves an outside entity. Chief Thomas actually began initiating some of the retraining last summer as soon as she found out about the roll call incident. We want employees to clearly understand what to do if they observe or hear inappropriate behavior or language from another employee. It is every employee's obligation, in fact, to report misbehavior, and it is the responsibility of KPD supervisors to act promptly when complaints are made, and also to make it clear that professional demeanor is expected 24/7. We will be reinforcing to police employees the multiple ways in which they can report alleged inappropriate behavior. Talk with a supervisor. If necessary, go to a deputy chief or the chief. Contact civil service, contact the law department, contact internal affairs. We have so many outstanding and selfless police officers. I will always support KPD and praise the tremendous job they do, often under extremely stressful circumstances. But when individual officers act inappropriately or don't follow the correct protocols, they have been and will continue to be held accountable. Thank you for being here today and for adhering to the good social distancing practices. And I'll now open it up for questions for me and for Chief Thomas.
Mayor, we have 4 chief deputies and Chief Thomas. 2 of them and Chief Thomas received citations in this report. How can you be sure, and how can KPD be sure that the structure is in place, that it is secure for them to come with complaints or have issues in the future when more than half of the people who are at the top of them in charge of this stuff get in trouble?
One deputy chief and Chief Thomas
Who was
received.
the other?
Captain.
Okay, thank you.
I have had the opportunity to work very closely with Chief Thomas and her command staff just in this first 3 months of my tenure. And during those interactions, I've attended roll calls, I've been on ride-alongs, I've worked with the chief and her team on all kinds of issues, public safety and crime. And I have confidence that they are taking responsibility for these actions, and they have the consequences, and I have confidence that they will be able to continue to lead KPD in a responsible way and are willing to admit when mistakes are made and change things.
Were pensions affected at all for the supervisors who retired or resigned?
I'm going to let Chief Thomas handle that question. Pensions affected for Bush.
Were pensions affected, is that the question? No. The way that they receive those pensions are different. The resigning supervisors will not get their full pension had they stayed the 25 years and been at least 50 years old.
Chief Thomas, I've got a question about kind of the level of discipline and all of this. The officer who recorded the video received a number of days without pay, is that correct?
That's correct.
But the captain who was reported saying inappropriate comments, deputy chief who were reported saying it's okay, it's gonna go away, they received just a written reprimand?
That's
Can you help us
correct.
understand why the harsher punishment for someone who just reported?
So if you'll review the summaries that you got, you will see that those levels of infractions were different levels. Recording another officer is what's called a Class A violation, which can be punished by termination. I felt like in this case, it did not warrant termination, but it warranted a strong message to that officer.
Can you help me understand, Captain Willis was reported saying estrogen is a poison that destroys the logic center of the brain. Why was that worth a written reprimand?
That was a violation of that was a violation of what we call courtesy, which is a Class B violation. So a written reprimand is what I determined. He received 2 written reprimands, one specifically for that violation.
And I guess the question for women here in Knoxville who may be watching this today, who know that there is still a supervisor who is still working at KPD who had those beliefs. Should they
Now,
also-
those beliefs, that I can't say are his beliefs. We don't know those are his
Who
beliefs.
said those things?
He said those things. He did say those things. That's what he's being punished for. Part of punishment is retraining. In my estimation, that was worth a reprimand as punishment. Also, retraining is in order because I feel like that's a mistake that has been made and can be corrected.
One question, when we had that news conference last summer, you and Mayor Rajero both said that you don't believe there's a culture problem at KPD. This incident began with a sergeant saying and feeling confident enough to get up in front of a roll call meeting and say inappropriate things and make inappropriate comments. It went on to a captain making inappropriate comments and defending his sergeant and one of your deputy chiefs doing the same. How is that not representative of a culture problem?
And please explain defending the sergeant.
He said that it was his best sergeant in the district, bar none.
Yeah.
And Deputy Chief
And I believe those comments, and I created my own timeline. When you look at the full case, you can create that timeline, were made before we actually saw the video. We didn't have knowledge of what had been said at that point.
And correct me if I'm wrong, there was a letter that was sent to you as well, an anonymous letter
Yes, sir.
complaining about some of the sergeant's behavior. That was what started those comments. Was his behavior not laid out in this letter?
In the letter, that behavior was laid out. It was an anonymous letter. We still don't know who wrote that anonymous letter. It came, and we were going to look into it, and we have looked into it as best we can.
So respectfully, at that point, you did know that the allegation, the comments had been made, and when Deputy Chief Miller said those things, when Captain Lewis said those things, they had reviewed the anonymous letter, correct?
Right. So we got an anonymous letter. We had not had time to verify those comments.
Do you think that, can you speak again to the culture, the issue of the culture problem in KPD, with so many people doing all of this, plus other reporting that we've done here at Channel 10, talking about some of the other incidents in years prior, do you not believe that there's something, kind of an idea that this is okay?
No, I really don't. I don't believe that there is any idea that it's okay. I think people make mistakes. Our mistakes are very public, where in other professions, they are not public. So the incidents that occurred, I think guarantee you we won't make any more mistakes, but we will do training. We'll reinforce that training so as to mitigate that from happening again.
Chief Thomas, you received a citation as well from this. Am I correct with that? Yeah. How do you feel about that consequence for yourself?
Well, I'm not happy, but I think it's appropriate. I made a mistake. I've learned from that mistake, the same as I expect the officers that I've disciplined, is to learn from their mistakes and not make that mistake again.
Do you think that officers in KPD, Mayor Buchanan spoke about this, will feel confident that they can speak up, given that some of the supervisors who were involved in this received written reprimands in their file and not any further action?
Those written reprimands stay in their file forever. That is a huge thing for an officer to receive. It's not taken lightly, so officers don't look at that as something that has been done lightly. Nobody skated, for lack of a better word, in this investigation. The Internal Affairs Unit did a phenomenal job, along with the Law Department, in reviewing everything that they had. I just got a text saying that Channel 10 just released another video that we didn't have that would have helped our investigation. So that's the type of thing that I hate is happening. Had we had that video, we could have investigated further and more efficiently. I think they did exactly what they needed to do with what they had, and discipline was appropriate for what we were aware of.
I can speak for Channel 10. I do not know the video you're referencing off the
Okay.
top. Mayor Buchanan spoke about retraining and harassment training, including an outside expert possibly being brought in. What details can you share about that?
We are currently developing that training right now. We are working with LEIC, which is the Law Enforcement Innovation Center. It's a division of UT, and they are going to help us develop harassment and, let me see, I can read from what I have. Yeah. I had a picture of it and it went away. All right, here we go. Okay, so what they are going to do is they are going to have examples of violations and their consequences, definitions of various types of harassment, various anti-discrimination laws and examples of each, interactive scenarios, harassment prevention, both employee and supervisor responsibilities, policy examples, and investigating harassment. And then beyond that, we are going to do more training on our own policies, which are the only violations that we found here. So our own policies need to be reiterated. Every year, we will make that a part of our annual in-service training, and we'll go over those again and again, because it's incumbent upon each employee, sworn or non-sworn, when they see anything happening like this, any type of harassment, to report it. So I don't want any more anonymous complaints. That's out of policy.
Chief Thomas, one of the issues for Lieutenant Brasfield after he made the complaint is he felt that he was retaliated against when he was put into, I think it was even near your office, up
Right.
at a different level where he was typically working. He ended up quitting because he felt like it was some retaliation. Did your investigation get into any of that, or do you have any comment on that?
We would have liked to. He filed a grievance against me, which was printed and reported on, which I never had a chance to respond to. As far as his transfer, It's incumbent upon me to make sure our operation runs efficiently and effectively, and leaving him where he was not an option for that to happen. I moved him up to my office to work on things that he had special skills for. He acquired his law degree while at the department, and I had a couple of things that we were working on in my office that I needed that expertise to work on. So that's why I brought him up to my office. I felt that was a good fit while this investigation was going on. The transfer was temporary. The paperwork said temporary.
In the future, I assume that that would be how KPD responds to these types of things. Like, that's not changed, like you would change and move someone around if they needed to be moved.
It's every situation is different. I can't,
If I could just circle back, Chief Thomas, you mentioned the Law Enforcement Innovation Center bringing them in, some of this training. Do you have a timeline on when that might be in place for officers, and who will be included? Is it just command staff, supervisors, officers? What is that going to look like practically?
It will be given to every member of the police department, sworn and civilian. The timeline, they're currently working on it. We don't have a cost as of yet, so I'm sure there'll be some cost there, which we will bear the cost of that, but as soon as possible. And we have begun, as far as our own policy training, immediately after this anonymous letter came out, I sent out an email to be sure, I was actually out of town, to be sure to have our training go out on our policy through an electronic means called Power DMS. What that did was it put out those policies with my comments, and every employee has to look at that on their computer and sign off on it. So we are sure that every employee has seen that. Additionally, I went, and it took me about 2.5 weeks, I documented going to each squad individually, a lot of units in the department, maybe that just had civilians, to talk with them one-on-one, to make sure they understood the policy and they felt comfortable going to one of those resources should they witness any harassment or sexual harassment.
Is the department or the city looking at changing any policies because of this incident?
We are. We're looking at how our investigations are done. We're looking at, the harassment policy is there. There's also a city policy that we mirror. But we are looking at several ways. How can we run more efficiently? How can we make this something that is always on somebody's mind rather than just giving it to them when they first come on with the department? So that's why we're going to reiterate each and every year. All of our policies are updated continually. Something new comes along in a law, or maybe there's a situation that we've never dealt with before, so we will revise those policies. We are in compliance, all our policies are in compliance with CALEA, which is a Commission on Accreditation for Law Enforcement Agencies, which we've been accredited through them since 1992. We're evaluated on a yearly basis now. It used to be every 5 years, then it went to 3, and then 4. But they look at what we do, and we want to make sure we're doing best practices. So, they'll change. They'll change.
One more question for each outlet.
During this time, was Captain Willis or Deputy Chief Miller ever put on leave or moved to a different assignment? And then, if I can, just tag on to the end of that, just some loose ends quickly. Also, Lieutenant Brasfield's complaint, he alleged that an officer traded oral sex in exchange for not writing up somebody. And also, there was an allegation that Captain Willis had withheld exculpatory evidence in a case. Can you speak to whether that was addressed at all in this investigation?
Yes, those were addressed. When you get a chance to read the entire case, those are addressed in that case. Both were unfounded. They had been addressed. Lieutenant Brasfield failed in his duty to research that. Well, that was one of his officers. I can't explain that. I never got a chance. Internal Affairs didn't get a chance to interview Lieutenant Brasfield on some of those issues. I'm sorry, what was the first question?
I apologize.
Oh, about moving.
Willis or Deputy Chief Miller, were they ever put on leave of any kind or moved to
No.
different roles during this investigation, as Lieutenant Brasfield was?
Right. No, neither of them was moved. I didn't feel they needed to be moved based upon the allegations. Let me recant that. I've already lied to you or misled you. Captain Willis has been moved. He is now a captain in the Criminal Investigations Division. That was prompted by a series of promotions we did within the department, and because of those promotions, when I promote supervisory people, I want them to go out to patrol because that is why we do what we do. So he was a patrol commander, and the newest captain became patrol commanders. So that was why that moved.
So he's received a promotion in the last year, Captain Willis?
No, he did not.
But he moved to CID?
He moved to CID because he was a patrol commander, and I wanted my two newest captains, both of my patrol captains were moved. Because I wanted my two newest patrol captains to be in patrol, my two newest captains to be patrol captains.
So he kind of cycled out. If you will.
Yes.
Is,
That's a good way to put it. Cycled out is a good way to put it.
is moving to CID viewed as a promotion though? It feels like that's more of an investment.
No, it's a lateral move. Even if an officer at the officer level goes to become an investigator, that's a lateral move as well. It's not a promotional move.
I apologize.
No, it's good. Good questions.
Chief, you've had, you said it even last summer and continue, it's difficult and will continue to be difficult to recruit to Knoxville Police Department. Can you talk to, now that this is wrapped up, maybe moving forward, if you can move forward, and what that looks like on
What recruiting looks like?
Correct.
Yeah. Well, we continue to try and recruit to improve our diversity. We want our department to look like the community. Is that a 51% female department? It'd be great. I don't know that we can get there. We keep trying. It's a difficult time right now to recruit, and we realized that early on. We actually have a marketing company working with us right now, making some great suggestions as to what we can do to improve that. But understand, policing is a very difficult field to be in at this time. There's no other field that I'm aware of, maybe you all, where you are on camera every minute that you work, especially once we go to body cameras, it'll be even more intense. Every time you receive even a minor discipline, it's in the news. So there are no other jobs. The private sector is a whole lot different. So you really have to have a heart to do this, and those are the people we're looking for. So we're trying to figure out how to get to those people.
maybe I should have asked, has this investigation, now that it's over, has it impacted that recruitment effort at all negatively even, or do you think that that's done?
Actually, I would have thought it would have, and it probably has, but we have more recruits getting ready to start our academy the end of this month or the end of April than we did in our class in September. So we're doing better. So kudos to those folks for believing in us and believing that we are doing the right thing.
Had the supervisors not resigned, if you can talk on this, what would their repercussions have been?
Okay. Sergeant Maxwell, I'm not sure because we really didn't investigate that. Obviously, it's a grievous, it was an egregious thing. As far as Lieutenant Bush, I can't tell you because we would have had we had a pre-disciplinary hearing scheduled where he would have had a right to present his side of his case. However, the infractions against him were 3 Class A infractions, and those are terminating offenses. Truthfulness in the police profession is paramount. For those of you familiar with the Brady Rule, if we're found being untruthful, that can impact future testimony. So that's some errors are fatal, where we like to retrain and we like to correct errors, punish, retrain, correct, and move on. Some we cannot. That's all I can say. I can't say what would have happened, but take that for what it's worth.
Any other questions?
Good.
Scott, do you have any questions? All right. Thank you guys very much.
I shake your hand.
Well, virtual.
I hope, let me know how things go.
I haven't heard anything yet, but thank you. I appreciate it.
Tom's out there? Good. Call me about him.